don't think I was going to make it to 50 because I was probably diagnosed not long after my 40th. Chronic fatigue came first really slowly. Then I masked my life. Like at my worst, I just couldn't open my eyes, couldn't do anything. I was just so tired and just really, really just exhausted constantly. Just wanted to cry constantly. I had very little patience. Tried to do my best with my children, but I had very little patience and just kept pushing and pushing and pushing to get through the day. And then, of course, going to bed, I couldn't sleep because I was too exhausted and so very, very unhappy.
Hey everyone, welcome to another success story at CFS Health. We are very, very lucky to have Jeanne from UK. Is that correct? Yep.
Yes.
We're so grateful to have you here. Your story of recovery from chronic fatigue syndrome is pretty damn inspiring. We've just been talking off air about how you went through it for 12 years. Sounds like you're a single mum as well for that period, working with 2 kids for a period of time. And now you're 50 years young and your life has just begun. So welcome. Appreciate you having you here. You said this before, something really interesting that like made me kind of laugh, but also was like, actually, that's a really good talking point. Before we met, you were on YouTube searching stuff for chronic fatigue syndrome. I'd love to hear about that. Like what was your journey searching for answers for your recovery?
Well, I'd already kind of done a lot by reducing the hours I was working and trying to look after myself. But I was kind of always looking for that one thing, the pill, the magic thing,
Yep.
the thing that's gonna fix it everything. And I'd kind of looked into some tapping, and I was just searching on YouTube, and you kept coming up in your white shirts. And I full on thought you were just selling something. I was like, no, that's kind of used car salesman to mind. And I just kept pressing. But you kept coming up. And I don't know, I can't remember how long it went on. Maybe it went on for like a couple of weeks, only just, like 5, 6, 7 times. And then in the end, I was like, right, okay, it's clearly persistent, this ad. So I pressed and listened. And I just went, oh, okay. Wow. And I think at the time it was about you were doing like a 5-day course,
Yeah.
like a baseline
Baseline
course.
course. Yep.
And I it sounded really good. And I thought, right, okay, you were saying something I could understand, and you were, telling your story, and that's with the things. I think I've always been quite impulsive, like because I was trying the next the next thing, and I was talking to, he was my partner at the time before we got married, and he was like, right, I'll help you pay for it, and we tried it, and it was I think it was 5 days course,
Yep. Yep.
and that was just blew my mind,
Wow.
and I was like, okay, this is not an ad.
Yeah.
Um,
This isn't a dodgy scam on the internet.
no. Mm, and
I'm curious.
Ca-
What blew your mind when you were going through even just that 5-day working with us? Like, what blew your mind?
It was the baseline stuff. It was kind of be very much talking about like what's appropriate. And I quite quickly realized I wasn't doing things appropriately, even though I had cut down my hours, but I was still working 3 jobs to try and kind of look after my kids. Um, and I was still doing things at home, and even though on a lot of days I had to come back from work, go to bed for about 3 hours and then get up, I was then doing stuff through the night or through the evening because my kids were still kind of relatively, young school age, or going to high school and stuff. So I was still trying to do everything. And
Getting them.
yeah. mm, And even though I had a really helpful partner, but he was living far away. He wasn't close. Um, So I was still trying to do everything. And I think the course, that 5 days, it was just like, this is making sense. Sadly, there is not a magic pill. And there was just lots of it because it was quite straightforward, some of the things. Even though there was a lot, it was straightforward in the sense like, try and go to bed at the same time.
Yeah.
Try and eat more often. Yeah. And quite quickly, those little things, I felt the difference. Like the big game changer for me was eating every 2 to 3 hours,
Meal
which I
frequency. Yep.
still do to this day. Still make sure I have my meal prepped. And that, and then going to bed, because it quite quickly made a bit of a difference.
So you were just like, oh, this actually works when I take control of my health. We'll dive deeper. We'll dive deeper into baseline stuff because, you know, one of the biggest problems with chronic fatigue syndrome is just that push crash cycle. And so the concept's really simple, but it's really hard to implement, you know, like, and it's not pacing. That's the difference. It's not just pacing where you're pacing and managing your illness for the rest of your life. Baseline is just formulating your appropriate routine and structure for your current capacity so you can build upon it, which this is exactly what you've done. You know, this is why you're living again, you know, which is just freaking amazing. Take us back to, you know, prior to seeing that video on the internet and thinking that I was a used car salesman and then having the courage to eventually click on it and then decide to do our 5-day course. And I'm so glad you did. You know, imagine if you didn't do it. Like, you know, I wonder where you'd be today. I think eventually, hopefully you would have got better, but maybe it would have taken, you know, who knows how much longer. Tell us, like, before we met, what were your biggest struggles symptom-wise?
Well, it was like a really slow process because um, it it very much the beginning of it got masked. You know, I had a business which failed in the recession, and then I got a divorce at the same time, and then I lost my house. So there was all this went on for about
Yeah.
a year and a half. So I was just thought I was tired because all that was going on and had 2 youngish children. So it was just a really slow process. And I bought the house here and moved in. And again, oh, it must be because I'm moving. And there was always a good excuse to why. Then I was working a lot. And there's always a good reasoning for why I was so tired. But then it got bad quite quickly. And that's when I kind of went to the doctors, and then the fibromyalgia pain started, and all of a sudden there was a bit more reasons to go to the doctor because there was something wrong. And then I kind of went for lots of tests, and I was still working, and eventually I just couldn't work as much. So I had to kind of reduce, and it just kind of, I couldn't even tell you the timeline because the days go so quick, really, when you kind of feel like you're fighting everything. And I think when I met, who's now my husband, in 2017, I had done as much as I could myself to get better, but I think I was working 3 days, 4 days. But then that got even, at one point I was only working 2.5 days, just around finding you.
Right. So you were just in survival mode kind of thing. Like on the days working, you'd just be, yeah, flawed and
Yeah. So obviously he was helping me out, but before that time I would work, I would come home, I would go to bed. My daughters were old enough to kind of be able to let themselves in. My oldest daughter really liked cooking. So I was really lucky. So she did the cooking. She made sure her sister did her homework. I would be in bed maybe 3, 4 hours, and then I would get up, and then I would be with them and trying to be a mom
wow.
and do everything. And we did that for quite a long time.
Yeah. What were some of the main symptoms you experienced through that time? Like, was it
That I would say the fatigue just could not. I wouldn't even say it was the pain then, it was just the fatigue. It couldn't open my eyes, couldn't
Wow.
do anything. I was just so tired, and just really, really just exhausted constantly. Just wanted to cry constantly. I had very little patience. Um, tried to do my best with my children, but I had very little patience and just kept pushing and pushing and pushing to get through the day. And then, of course, going to bed, I couldn't sleep because I was too exhausted, and so very, very unhappy because I couldn't give, my kids what I felt they deserved and needed.
Were you told that, it was all in your head or that you're making it up from doctors, or were you able to get a diagnosis relatively quickly and
It it felt at the time that it took a long time, but I think looking what other people have gone through, I actually got a diagnosis probably within 2, 3, 4 years, probably maximum.
yeah, which is still a long time, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it more felt that it was a little bit, at the time, it felt a little bit, we don't know what's wrong with you, so this is the dustbin lid with you, this covers something. Um, it more felt they really didn't. They'd done everything, so they didn't really know, so it must be this. Um, where obviously, as the last few years, a lot more has kind of been discovered about both things, and I feel more confident now that it was that diagnosis block. For a long time, I thought, well, what if they missed something? What if it's actually something else that they've missed? Because they didn't know what it was, and they just put this band-aid on to appease me. So yeah, but I think more now you know, I'm happy with the diagnosis, or if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think a lot of even now, Jean, like a lot of people when they get diagnosed, even now when they're diagnosed, they're still kind of searching down different rabbit holes, thinking that there's something else wrong with them. And that's part of recovery too, like, not focusing on illness or symptoms and switching focus once everything else is excluded, obviously, for peace of mind. But, I think that's a really common thing that happens with everybody. But yeah, particularly back then, 12 years ago would have been even more so compared to now. The awareness is so much different, which is great. You mentioned like happiness, or the opposite of that. What was that like I can't imagine having 2 kids, probably under the age of 18 at that stage, I think the girls were, and you went through a divorce around that same time. That's freaking hard, like on top of everything else to go through, like that's hard on its own. Marry chronic fatigue syndrome with that, being a single mum. What At your worst, what were the thoughts going around in your mind? Like it's when you don't have help and you don't have anything, any guidance, like I think that's one of the hardest things and one of the most isolating things about chronic fatigue syndrome. Did you experience that?
I was lucky I had very good friends. Like my family was abroad, or is abroad, but I was also lucky in the sense that my kids have always gone to my parents when they were younger. So I did actually get that kind of, I still got a little bit of a reprieve, couple of weeks in the summer and a week here and there. So even though it wasn't constant, it did actually help that I could then kind of just pull the plug for 3 weeks in the summer. Still work, but didn't have to feel guilt. I think the main, what I really felt was just guilt. Guilt towards my kids. Um, guilt that they'd kind of gone through these big things of, we had a restaurant that was part of their lives. We lost that. We lost a very nice house. Then the divorce. And I just had this tremendous guilt that not only have they gone through all this, they now also have a mom that's completely useless. It was more that. And then not being able to see the future, not like 50 was a really big thing, not being able to even think that I was ever gonna get to 50 because I just couldn't see it.
You didn't think you were going to get to 50 years old?
No, no, I didn't, because I was probably diagnosed not long after my 40th. And a few years after that, I just thought I couldn't even see that I would get there. Um, so that is why it's been so big to turn 50.
Yeah.
It, and I realized probably about 6 months ago, I started vocalizing the thought I had had, because I'd never said it. I'd never said, I don't think I was going to make it to 50. And then I started vocalizing it, and I felt, this is really dark, but I thought, no, this is really a testament to where we are.
Sure.
Oh, I have vocalized it.
Yeah.
Kind of friends and family, because it's so much bigger than just, yeah, I'm turning 50.
Yeah. Well, turning 50 is big on its own, but the fact I had no idea when we met that you had those thoughts as well, that you didn't actually think you were going to get there. And it's funny because I've written here in my notes 50 years young, not 50 years old. And you know, they say that life begins in your 50s, you know, it's like a whole new lease of life, and how more powerful for you and more meaningful for you, you know, going back 10 years plus ago, thinking that, well, you know, I don't know if I'm going to get there. So it makes sense to me why you are the way you are now, like how happy you are. You're always so grateful, very appreciative, and you're always quite enthusiastic too and optimistic, you know. So sounds like it's been a big change from, you know, when you first started this journey.
Yes, and I've also been very lucky. Like I have some very old long-term friends that have backed me up and helped me out with the kids. And obviously Brian, who's now my husband, and we've been married for 5 years, and he has just been tremendous. He's just like, honestly, so grateful. And he's just helped me with anything. And you know, it was actually him who, because I wanted to quit the program after about 6 months. And he was absolutely, don't you dare.
Tell me more about that. Tell me more about this is a really important piece of recovery that most people don't understand. So there's a juncture period in recovery where you get to the halfway point of your recovery, right? Now, typically, if you're doing the work and you're consistent at it, it'll be between the 6 and 12-month mark of you fully working on your recovery, right? And this is what we've seen over the last 15 years. And there's a juncture point. And the juncture point, you can go two options. You can go, I've improved a little bit. It's okay. I'm not super happy, but I'm also not as bad as I was, but maybe this is it for me. Maybe this is just it. I just need to accept this new reality of like an improved level, but I'm not fully recovered. I'm not living my life again. Or the second option is like, I'm here and I just need to keep going. We call it the boredom gap. You've probably heard me talk about that. Yeah. There's a boredom gap period where you have to continue doing the work even when you feel like it's not working or it doesn't feel that great. And then once you get over that hump, it's like the trajectory just goes up again. And then that's when you really start to notice the true, tangible, physiological changes in your body and in your brain. And the symptoms start to dissipate a lot more, and the progress speeds up even more, and that. And so we see it all the time. Tell me what was going on in your mind at the 6-month mark when you're like, I'm done, I'm going to quit.
What had happened? Sadly, my dad was ill, and when I joined it in August, and he was already ill, but it was kind of just a steady. And then in October, he got really ill, and it was quite dramatic, and the whole family just blew up. So I was trying to deal with that, obviously being in another country than the rest of my family, and it was obviously it was devastating. So I was trying to do a bit of both, and I couldn't, obviously for obvious reasons, couldn't commit fully to the program. And so when we got to the 6-month mark, I said to my what's the point? You know, it's not going to happen. all that. And he just went, don't you, I think he swore at me, actually.
What a good husband. The only time I'd ever say swear, you're allowed to swear at your wife.
Like, he was like, don't you dare. And I was like, but the money. And I don't care. You're doing it because it's helping. And he would say to you that I got through all this with my dad because of the program. He's adamant that it helped me through it, even if I didn't know, and if I didn't feel it. And then around that 6 months, when he was like, no, you're not doing it. And then I asked my kids, what do you think? And they were like, no, Mom, you're better, less snappy. And I couldn't see it. And they were all three going, no, you're carrying on. And then my dad passed not long after that. And of course, everything that comes with that. And the program didn't really click until 8 months in, when I realized, because what you were saying before about it being in your head, when I realized it wasn't in my head, but my head was in the way.
Yes.
And I don't think I ever realized how connected the body was to what I was thinking. And that was when I stopped saying things like my illness and things like that. And I stopped saying things like it's not fair. But it took 8 months. And then that was kind of when I started just being more accepting, more open to what I was hearing. And yeah, I think I became a lot more aware of the mindset work, Gemma, the goddess that she is, and all her work. Because I already done your when I started your mindset mastery, I'd done that. But I couldn't really get past
You need to go.
to all the mind.
Yeah, you need to go deeper. Yeah.
I couldn't really see what does saying no got to do with,
Yeah, setting boundaries and empowering yourself. Yeah, yeah. Holy crap, I've got shivers down my spine because, like, one, your family are freaking awesome. Like, to have 3 people supporting you when you're like, no, I'm done. I don't need to do it. And the 3 most important people in your life are all saying, no, you need to do like, no agenda whatsoever, no bias. They're literally saying, no, you're getting better here. Why would you stop something that works? Right.
Yeah.
And what's really funny, and I actually think I said this to you around that time, I said, why would you stop something that's working? And when you're going through a really hard time right now, why are you giving up the support that actually holds you and catches you? With the coaching and the amazing community of mentors and coaches and all the other members in, 75 countries now. It's like that, sometimes we can't see those things, the support systems that are actually there to hold you and catch you, whereas obviously your husband saw it. What blows my mind is the fact that even though you hadn't fully even accepted all of this stuff until the 8-month mark. What blows my mind is the fact that you were already making improvements between month 1 and month 8. Even though you weren't fully into the program, if that makes sense. Like you were kind of doing some things here and there and trying and plodding along and going through it. But like the fact that you even noticed improvements with it from 1 to 8th month mark, and then you were like, oh, now it clicked, right? And everyone eventually gets it, whether it's some people it happens within 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, everyone's different. But when it finally clicks and the penny drops, there's a different energy that comes with it. It's like when you fully, when you're all in, you win. It's one of those sayings, like when you're all in, 2 feet in, you win, and you fully commit to yourself and your own recovery. And then, you eventually get healthy and it enables you to start living again. What were some of the other shifts from the 8th month mark? Obviously, acceptance is a big piece, Jeanne, and it's so you can, we all know acceptance isn't resignation. It's not you're not giving up. That's why so many people just think accepting is just giving up. But for me, acceptance isn't resignation. It's the starting point of recovery. How the hell did you get to that point of like acceptance with a brighter future?
Well, I didn't know the last bit of acceptance isn't resignation. It took me a really long time to get it. But then I started to get it. Well, some of the things that really worked for me was the cards, the little by little becomes a lot. My absolute favorite.
So we have quote cards for people who don't. We have 65 quote cards that are commonly said and used phrases inside our actual recovery program. And so, this one says new level, new devil, which basically means every time you progress, there's actually new challenges that arise there because you're at new capacities. And so there's things we need to deal with. There's just heaps of them, but one of them was a little by little becomes a lot is your favorite, which is true.
And the one that was, and actually the next one was kind of a big shift in my mindset is a bad morning doesn't mean a bad day.
Yes, a bad morning doesn't mean a bad day.
I was very much of that ilk. Oh, I've had a shit morning. Now it's going to be the whole day. And I just didn't quite realize how much I was talking myself down. I didn't get it. And it wasn't until I kind of started doing Gemma's mindset work, I was like, wow. And I did things like, I'm not good at saying no. So I said, maybe, especially to my kids, when they would ring, oh, Mom, do you want to do this? And I would go, maybe. Where before I would have either said yes and pushed myself through it or said no way before I even knew.
If it was possible for you. Yeah.
Yeah. So instead, I very much used the word maybe, and I would go, you know what? Let's see what's in my capacity on the day or the day before, or and just those little things. I don't think I did big changes.
No, it never is, Jeanne. It never is. No success story ever says, "Oh my God, Toby, it was just this one thing." Never.
It was just lots of little. Like, I'm fully aware that the support system I have is just gold.
Which is super nice. It's not everyone gets that. Yeah.
I've been so lucky and I'm very grateful. And I tell them often. I tell them still, I was asking my youngest daughter the other day, she's like, what has the program done for me? What do you think? And she just went, because I was kind of thinking, have you seen me what it is to struggle, and have you seen me what it is to achieve things? And she goes, no, because I've never seen you any different, Mum. And I could have cried. I've never saw. She said, you were always my mum. I never thought any worse of you because you were ill. And she was the youngest. But now you have more energy and you have more time and we have more quality. But I never thought any worse of you. And I just stood there and I was like, are you sure? Are you sure I haven't taught you something else with this? No, I came back to them. And that was all these things that we think. And for her to say that, I thought, wow. She never thought any worse. She just happy she has me back to do more things together. And it's stuff like that. And obviously my husband and we lead a happy, appropriate life that just we take every day with massive gratitude. He actually not about 5 years ago had a stroke. So that was obviously before the program, and so we were also dealing with that. And so all these little things that has come 2 weeks after our wedding, that will tell you it's on the.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God.
But all these things just means that the recovery I've done, there's been no pressure because he hasn't got the energy to run around and climb a mountain.
And it's also a mutual understanding as well of hardship, I think, that sounds like he's got. He sounds absolutely brilliant. What's your husband's name?
Brian.
Brian. Shout out to you, Brian. And the girls. And the girls, you guys are amazing. How does it feel, Jeanne? Like, just when you're talking about this, like I'm feeling a lot of joy for you. I'm about to cry. I wasn't expecting this. But how does it feel for you? Like,
It's just every day, there's always a hard day, and I think what I've learned in the program, healthy people have rubbish days too, and healthy people get ill too, and other people get in the way, and life gets in the way, but it doesn't mean you can't get back. Doesn't mean that you might have a bit of a setback, but it doesn't mean a crash. So I think I'm just really grateful, and proud of myself of how far I've come, and I know I have more work to do, and I know some days the pain gets in the way, but it isn't making it a bad life.
tell me.
Just making it different.
Yeah, you said you've always had pain since you were a kid, and but that chronic fatigue syndrome wise, there's really no struggle. Tell us what your life looks like now, just to paint the picture, because it's pretty full.
It's really.
It's like any healthy person's probably going to feel tired listening to this.
I work 4 days as a service coordinator in a job. We deal with coffee machines, so it's a very, very busy job, very versatile, which I like, very tiring. However, I think it's tiring for everybody, not just. So I have the Wednesday off, and that's often appointments and stuff for my back. And then I have the weekend, and I kind of try, and Saturday's my lying in day, and then I'll see a friend, and my husband works, so when he comes home, and we just, I say we have a lovely little life, and it makes it sound like it's not great. It's just is really, we like going for drives. My husband is always like, well, if we drive here, you're going to have a sleep in the car, and then he'll drive me to the coast, and we'll drive like an hour, and we'll go for a little walk, and then we'll go drive home again. I do a lot for my mom and my brother back home, so my life is busy. And there are definitely things that I could probably say, well, if I didn't do this and if I didn't do that, say, for my mom and for my brother, my life would be less tired and stuff. But I've come to the point now where I realize, but I'm choosing to do these things. It's a value I find very important. To supporting my family, I think probably family is the biggest value for me. I don't anymore have big kind of, I want to go and do my own business, and I want to go and do this. I find now my value is just supporting my family, being with my husband, supporting my children, seeing my friends, and that is a very full life for me, and it makes me very happy. And yeah, so it's nothing big and exciting. It's just every day is.
Well, it's because yeah, I mean, big and exciting for some people is what you're doing right now. You know what I mean? And I would say, you know, you and I talked before, and there's a whole training in the program about the difference between chronic fatigue syndrome tiredness and normal life tiredness. And when we were talking off air, I was like, God, any healthy person would look at you and go, holy shit, like you're doing a lot. You know what I mean? You got a lot going on. Plus, you're a mentor at CFS Health now, and let's not forget that, where you kind of chip in and give back to our community and our people. And I appreciate you for that. You're amazing. I love your shares and your support that you give our members now. It's just so good. And it's a full circle moment in a way. It's pretty special for you to be here and sharing your story now, going from the hardship and the suffering to, just being a great mum and a great wife and a great person, first and foremost, for yourself. You know what I mean? So it sounds like for your journey, there was lots of little things in all areas of recovery, from sleep to the basics of baseline to nutrition to restorative movement and reconditioning your body and getting back into the cognitive progress with your work and an expansion of your mindset. I think sounds like you really opened up and started having that curious mindset, which was very helpful, because I think when you get an illness like chronic fatigue syndrome, it's very easy to have a conclusive mindset because most of the doctors will just tell you there's nothing you can do. And so the mindset shuts down of the possibility to get better. And that's why the first key outcome of recovery is to know that it's possible, And so I appreciate you coming on to share your story, to show that first key outcome of possibility. Because it's someone who is 50 right now, who is in a dark place, who is sitting in bed feeling guilty, feeling like they're not going to get to 60, and then there's you who's living proof of this. So it's just freaking amazing. Two questions before we wrap up. One, if you could give one bit of advice to someone who's suffering right now, who is on their own, they believe that recovery is not possible, what would you want to say to them?
I would say stop chasing the one thing. I think until I kind of came to the program, I didn't really know what an holistic approach meant. So picking a few things. Obviously, if you're in the program, I think it helps because people can advise what those few things could be. I would suspect it's harder when you're if you're trying to do it on your own. But also just take it slow and don't try and rush it, and try a couple of things at the time. But I also think what really helped me was reaching out to my loved ones and asking when I really struggled to see it, because they'll see what you can't see. I remember asking my oldest, and she goes, well, you're less snappy. And I was like, oh, didn't realize I was snappy before.
Yep.
And I didn't know. So that would definitely be, obviously, the program has been a completely game changer, but bit at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself. Definitely. And for me, the approach has worked to snack at it all. And I still do it to this day. I'll do a bit. I'll look at the recordings. I more use the recordings. I wanted to say this to you. I love now that when you get the call or when you get the recordings, they'll say what each subject is in each one.
Yeah, in all our record calls, there's timestamps. You can see every single Q&A that's asked.
Yeah, and that's such when you're having bit of a dip or a hard time, when you can't even, when you think, oh, I haven't got the energy to do an hour, but you can literally look, oh, that works.
Yeah. Yep.
That is something that has really helped. And then I would say one thing that has really, really stuck with me, and I've said it before and it's really resonated, was a hill in a call said, well, you're making Jeanne 0.20. And that just blew my mind, because I was always trying to be who I used to be. And I used to be the achiever. I used to be the one who ran 5 kilometers every day. I used to be the one who had her own business. And I thought I had to go back to her. And she was wonderful, but I don't need her anymore.
Yeah.
This who I am now is she's the one that's going to come with me the next.
She's the happy one. She's the Jeanne 2.0 at 50 years young.
Yes, absolutely. So I think that would be my advice. Take your time. And I know the money thing sits there, but if you can try and kind of just breathe and forget about that for a minute and just
work on your recovery. Yeah. Shout out to Coach Hill, who helped Jeanne, and all the other coaches who have been with you and supported you. Lastly, Jeanne, if someone's right now thinking about joining the program, they want help with their recovery, but they're scared, they're nervous, they're worried to try another thing that's not going to work. Probably the same thoughts that you had, honestly, on the internet that day. What would you like to say to someone who's like considering joining, but they're a bit nervous or a bit worried about it?
Well, I think one of the cards says what got you there won't get you. What got you here won't get you there.
Yep.
You have to do something different. I had already done some of the work, but I couldn't get any further. And you have to kind of, I guess, throw a bit caution to the wind. And the great thing about the program is there are so many people, and it's so many different countries, and there's always somebody who is there. So, you've just gotten up, I'm about to go to bed, but there's always time. There's always somebody who will support you.
Yeah.
You are never alone, ever. And I think when you're at your darkest and you feel so incredibly alone, even though you've got fantastic family, if you can, if you're 3 a.m. in the morning and you are upset, but you can go on that program and there is somebody else who will understand. And you don't have to vent. You can just say, right now I'm struggling a little bit, or, this is bugging me a bit. What do I do?
What do I do? How do I do it? Yeah. How do I progress?
Yeah. And the fact that the program isn't, there is no ranting. It's just really a nice atmosphere. And there's so many lovely people. So you know that you're not going to get somebody saying something inappropriate to. You're not going to get somebody to say, how many times have we all said to somebody, I'm tired, and they go, oh yeah, I'm tired too. And you go,
Yeah. There's none of that conversation. It's not gonna get you. It's not gonna get you healthy. Stuff.
Nobody tells you, it's in your head, and sometimes, like when I'm got my head mentoring hat on, which I'm so grateful and very honored to have. And I'll look at a question, I think, I don't know this, but I know that somebody else will.
Yeah.
And there is always somebody who can understand and who can help, whether they're a mentor, whether they're not. There's always support. And that's what I don't think you get anywhere else. It's 24-hour support. You don't get that with your doctor. Or it's constant, and it can be big things, it can be little things, it can things you'd never thought of, that somebody will say, oh, have you tried this?
Mhm.
Have you done this? And, you know,
Mhm.
and that's what I would say, what you get.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate you. The words "stay the journey" is like what's coming to me for you. It's like that should be your middle name, and thank God for your family to kind of encourage you to keep going, because there was that juncture point in recovery where you could have easily just been like, oh, like I've improved a little bit, but it didn't work. Another thing I've tried. It kind of worked, but didn't work. And the fact that you stuck through and you stayed the journey is a testament to your strength and character and your family, but also the reason why you're living again, And so I'm glad you feel proud for yourself, because you should be. You did the work. It certainly wasn't me. It wasn't anybody else. It was you who did it. And so I just want to acknowledge you for that, because it's not an easy journey.
No, but I think weirdly, what it brings you out is to a more authentic version of yourself, because you have to really ask yourself, what is it that's important, and what is it I want, and the things I want now and the things I value now. I can kind of stand behind them all. I'm
Yeah.
quite happy with them all. Um, and I'm happy to go down that route, uh, because I know I'm pursuing the things that I like to do.
Did you do values of program in lifestyle integration? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, that makes total sense. So as for a non-member, we have a up-level program called Lifestyle Integration. So as a member gets better and they start to recover, we have like a next level program called Lifestyle Integration, where we let go of the focus of recovery as the main thing, and we switch focuses to building the new life. And so we have a whole new program there, because it comes with challenges, integrating back into life, working again, family, relationships, all that kind of stuff is navigation. And one of the key processes in there is called the values aligned program. And so it makes, when you're talking out loud and you're like, oh, I've got my values and I live by my values and I'm living my life, I'm like, yeah, you must have done that. So was that really eye opening for you to do that? Just as we wrap up.
yes, and it was difficult. It was really difficult, because some of the values, when you are not kind of chasing the obvious thing, like when you're not saying, oh, I want to go and I want to have this business, or I want to do this. If you're just quite happy that your value is, I just want to be kind, and I just want to,
Family. Yep.
be there for my family, and you kind of think, well, are they really big enough values? And I think when you're then, um, like I'm in the service industry, so you can have a lot of not very nice people, and sometimes, I've come home and I've said, I've done all this work, and what is the point of doing all this work? And now, you have those a-holes. Uh, But but that's what you're learning, isn't it? That not every not every day is gonna be good. But again, it's that thing. Well, healthy people have bad days
Yeah.
too, and they have people who are not very nice to them too, and it's, for me, the values has just been to narrow it down and just saying, you know what, I really like who I am, and it's okay that I'm not chasing all these big things. I like that I'm the one my friends ring up and say, can you have a cup of tea?
Mm.
I like that. I like that my kids ring me for support and what would you do, and me and my husband are just having a nice chill life. I like it. And I think when you're honest with yourself, and it, when you realize, well, this is what makes me smile and what makes me happy. Um, and As a little aside, I think when you are getting to where we are, life focus and not recovery focus, and you notice what's happening around you. And my youngest daughter has just decided to go and live in the country I'm from originally, Denmark. And so, which is a massive thing. And I'm looking at her going, wow, you know, I didn't destroy anybody's life. We got through it all, and the we managed. We've done a great life, and my kids are okay. And I think when you are ill, when your kids are young, you worry you're going to destroy them, and you don't. You don't. I can sit and look at my kids with great pride, knowing I have still given them lots, despite what we went through. And I think that probably is one of my big prides and big values.
I was going to say it's one of the biggest accomplishment you've ever done. One of anybody, one of the most special. You're a beacon of light. You know, as you're talking, as this like you're the beacon of light in your world for the people around you. So, you know, it's yeah, it's pretty special. So, just want to say you're an amazing person. You're an amazing mother, an amazing wife. Shout out to Brian. Jeanne, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate you. This is so inspiring, and we will see you very, very soon, I'm sure.
Thank you very much.
Big love. See you soon. Bye.
See ya. Bye.